Hello, and we are back with segment 5 of the JENIFLIX series. Where does time go? How could we have already completed 4 segments? Anyway, that doesn't matter that much. Even if we did one every day, we couldn't share everything that is happening. Because when Eric, Mel, and I are working 3 to 4 hours a night, although we don't do this every night, in one night we get enough material to share with you. So anyway, welcome. And today I'd like to welcome my friends, my viewers, and my enemies. Because apparently they seem to watch me more than my friends. And I say this because last week's segment, I shared a story where at the end of the previous week, we had someone come in to us, and she was a Japanese woman who was also hurt by Sandra Tongue, and she had come to us for help. Well, I guess Sandra was not happy that we shared that. And so in the middle of Mel's day on Wednesday, when we had a full moon, Mel was disturbed from what she was doing by my guides or her guides to go and to stop a ritual that was being performed by Sandra's cronies here in Howard Beach, where they were about to sacrifice a pig. And I think it was a cat, right, Mel?
Yeah.
A cat. So, guys, I don't make this stuff up. I didn't even know it was happening until I got a text from Mel, and she said actually a dragon came and took her over there, and she stopped what they were doing. So, welcome, Sandra, and I am so happy you are entertained by our segments. And so, one and all, welcome. And this week we have a whole packed night of stuff to share with you. So I don't want to give any more of my energy to irrelevant, insignificant people. One of the things I plan to insert in this week's video is a video I found where Tucker Carlson is expressing his belief that we have the reptilians, the Anunnaki, all of what people call aliens amongst us, except he said he chooses not to call them aliens because based on what he has heard and researched and what many people are saying, they live amongst us and our government is aware of their existence. So because of that fact, they can't be aliens because they're already here. And I know I've been sharing with you my experiences with them. And although there's so many sharing about this, I've chosen Tucker's video because a lot of you know of him and trust what he reports, and he is reputable. And so I decided his video is the one that I would insert tonight, so you can hear his views on this topic of extraterrestrial beings. So
it's my personal belief, based on a fair amount of evidence, that they're not aliens. They've always been here, and I do think it's spiritual. That's my view. So, and again, it's not provable, but based on the evidence, I think
I'm with you.
Absolutely. If the U.S. government has in fact had direct contact with these beings, whatever they are, I've already told you what I think they are, and has entered into some sort of agreement with them, which is the claim of informed people, I would say. Whether they're right or wrong, I can't say conclusively. But if that is true, I mean, it's a very, very, very heavy thing.
Yeah. A lot of people say interdimensional beings.
Right. I want to ask, are angels and demons, or how would you describe these beings?
These are, again, I'm getting into the realm of conjecture, so I just want to say that flat out.
Entity?
But one thing I know for a dead certain fact, having seen it, is that there is good and evil, that we are being acted upon at all times. And I think every person can feel that in himself. I mean, there are moments when you are moved to do things that are much better than you actually are, and that are also more evil and destructive than you actually are. You are subject to forces from outside yourself. That is absolutely true. Now, we can argue about what they are, but every person in the room, if he's reflective, will tell you, yes, I know what you're talking about. And so there are forces that are not human, that do exist in a spiritual realm of some kind, that we cannot see, and that when you think about it, sort of make you think we live in an ant farm.
Yeah.
Being right? And that's
Absolutely.
that is real.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's many.
So as usual, welcome Mel to JENIFLIX segment 5.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
And Erik, where's our little rock international journalist star hiding? Welcome, Erik.
Welcome. I've been hiding in India, virtually. Yeah, it's been a hectic week, but it's been a fun, hectic week. So I've been pretty excited about my adventures for the week.
And just so you guys know, you should follow Erik. His tag is always on the videos here on YouTube because he has been giving his political views on the international shows, especially the ones in India. And he's got some great perspectives. I've listened to them. And you should also be following Mel because Mel is bringing through daily messages. And tonight, maybe I can have Mel start with a very important message she brought through the day of the full moon or the day after. She can correct me, where the night before we were on a massive mission. I would say it's the biggest so far because this particular night we were able to save a very prominent political figure. And I'm going to leave it there. But in case even we weren't sure we did it, the message that came through the next day via Mel's daily channel was confirmation and appreciation from the Galactic Federation for the job that we had done. So Mel, over to you.
Well, thank you. Thank you. So, yeah, a brief background as to how this happened, and then I will, sort of give it over to Erik to finish the story. Obviously, we're not going to mention the person that this involved, but just to give a background, it was one of those days where we were all on the phone, right, together, and we were putting our heads together and we were doing some stuff, and this is how things happen. And I heard, I was very, very drawn, rather, and then I heard Pasadena. So Pasadena, California. So not knowing who was in Pasadena, I told you guys this, right? And I'm like, something's going on in Pasadena, and that opened a whole can of worms. And it so happened that, I'm going to tell my story, what I discovered. I went to Pasadena. I was guided to go to Pasadena. And so did Erik, and Erik can talk about his experiences, but I was guided to go to Pasadena, and I found myself going down steps into like an underground, area, which I've never been in Pasadena, so I don't know what it looks like, but it reminded me sort of like a area where a subway would be, but it's just underground. Not a It wasn't a subway, but there was a bunch of stores, and I was walking down this part where there was a cafe or some sort of place off to the left. And I stopped. Now, mind you, I have no idea, I've never been there, don't know what it is I'm looking for, don't know what to expect. And I look through the window and I see two men sitting at a table. And I witnessed the exchange of a very large sum of money, being pushed across the table like this. It was obviously in an envelope, but I knew it was money. And I was, a little stunned. I still didn't know at the time what it was for. But that was the whole story. That's where the story began. So the one gentleman, probably not a gentleman, but the one guy left. I decided to follow him, the one who received the cash. And so I follow him through the streets. He was actually walking quite briskly. I remember at one point he was running. And so my little ethereal self decides to follow him So this is what we do when we don't, when we have nothing better to do, right? So we follow this man, and he stops at, which almost looked like a meal drop, but it wasn't. It was like a garbage can, but it really wasn't. Maybe it was a garbage can. I still don't know exactly what it was, but it was one of those things. Yeah, it was. It was. So I remember, I can't fully see everything in detail like Erik can. I just know that this is, what it represents. So it looked like a garbage can, and it was already later in the day. So the garbage pickup wouldn't have come. And he put something there somewhere that where it was hidden by the garbage can. And I waited, and then he walked off. And I thought to myself, well, you know what? I didn't feel the need to follow this guy who dropped the money there. I wanted to see who was going to come get the money. Okay, that was my thing. It almost made me feel like I was in some sort of movie, right? The kind of storyline you find in a movie. So I'm watching this unfold, and all of a sudden this car pulls up, and it was a Bentley. So, I mean, you can only imagine a Bentley. Not every average person has a Bentley. So I knew this person was of, wealth of some sort, and somebody got out and went straight right next to the, they pulled it right next to the garbage can and took the money, right? And then they disappeared. They drove off, and I'm like, okay, let's go follow the Bentley. so so I was kind of on a surveillance mission, if you so will. I didn't know where it was going, but I was in for it. And the next thing I know is that this car was going into a very wealthy home, which had a gate. Okay, I didn't see much else than the gate. The car driving up the gate and pulling up to a house. And that is when I knew I had to go and involve Erik. I said, Erik, he was on something else, I think, in Pasadena himself, and he can speak on that. But I said, I think you need to figure out where this house is, because there's somebody in that home that just received a bunch of cash. And this isn't just some ordinary transaction, because, there's much crime going on all over the country and in the world, right? We're not out to get people who do crime per se, although, we do occasionally, like in this case. But this was for a particular reason. So I knew that when I was shown these people and their exchange of the money, and I was drawn to them, that there was a reason for it. So anyhow, so Erik did what he did, or finished up what he was doing, and then he decided to go investigate. And I'm going to hand it over to you, Erik. You can speak then what happened there.
So while this was all going on, I guess rewind back. So when Mel was started to follow, people around, like a crazy stalker, I went into that underground area, and something like showed me I turned and looked, and there was like this hallway. And so Mel described it really well. Like this, it was almost like here in Atlanta, we have a place called the Underground. And that's kind of what it reminded me of a little bit. But there was a hallway that was like real, it was brightly lit, but it was like just concrete block. And it looked like a place where like a utility hallway, So I was like, all right, let's see what's good. They wanted me to see this for a reason. So I'm walking around this long hallway, and I'm turning all these corners. And then finally I get to this room. I look in, and it's like this massive drug operations going on in there. And so I'm like, well, I'm not the DEA. So, I felt, then it just seemed like, okay, this is just a big distractor. So I just kind of walked away from that. And then that's when Mel chimed in and said, hey, go to Pasadena. I'm like, all right, well, okay, we'll go to Pasadena. And so she said, there's a big mansion. And then pretty quickly I found it. And because I can kind of like go to where Mel's at a lot. I don't know if we're like connected somehow, but I can find her pretty easily anywhere she goes. So I walk in this big mansion. I walk past all this staff and all these people in there, and I'm trying to figure out whose mansion this is. So I'm walking around, and then I go up these big stairs, and then I turn this corner and I go into this big office. And there was a person standing in that office that I very quickly recognized. And I'm not going to say his name, but it was a he, and one of the very wealthy people of the world. And I had to pause it right there. I'm like, okay, now let me verify. And so I got on Google and I said, does so and so have property in Pasadena? Boom. Most certainly that person does. So that kind of helped me, verify that what I'm seeing is correct. And so then I had engaged this person, because I've engaged this person before, and he was actually on one of my lists at one time. And so I was immediately like, hey, didn't we already have a conversation about some stuff? And so he was very, very nervous. And then he pretty much divulged what he was up to. And there was gonna be a situation where a very high powered individual was going to be handled. And he showed me several different ways that they were going to do it, and they hadn't decided which way. So then I let Mr. who's so-and-so know, like, we're not going to do this today. And I don't care who pays you, how much somebody pays you, or how much you have to pay somebody else, that this will never happen. And now I'm going to be paying attention all the time to this certain powerful person and make sure that these things don't happen. And he looked very dejected. He was very confused as to how we found him. And I didn't tell him. I didn't be like, hey, I got a friend. I got some people out there watching you. I didn't want to say that, but he was very confused as to how we found out that fast. So that let me send it back over to Mel to kind of jump back in, because
Mel heard a certain word.
Right.
Mel did not know what Erik was doing. She knew where he was, but she did not know what he was finding out, and she can tell you what she heard, and then she related to Erik. What she was told, rather. Because people watching this, just so you know, we were on a divine mission. We are not bored. We don't sit at home and say, let's go spy on people. We go where we are taken by our angels and our guides. Okay, Mel.
Yeah, well, I pretty much confirmed. I heard that somebody, it was going to be an attempt on someone's life was going to be made. Okay, this powerful person. And that is, I didn't know what Erik was speaking or receiving from this other person. Okay, this that he was engaging with. So we had basically two different a piece of information or confirmation of what was to take place. This is very important in the story. But then I also heard that there was a man. I could tune in. Again, I'm very tuned in. It's like I received this information. I'm very, very, it's like it speaks to me, the energy that's around this. And I knew that we were looking for a male. And then this male was there. Okay. And that's when I told Erik, and Erik was like, well, let me go look for this male. And you pretty much found this male very quickly, did you not?
Yeah, because then I had realized that Mr. So-and-so was trying to stall me and to get me to go away for a while so this thing could start to happen. And luckily, Mel got this piece of information, because I was almost gonna say, okay, well, we've stalled it for a minute, but I did not know that this was already in progress. So then when Mel told me that, I had to hurry up and get to where this individual was. And it was very hard, but when you're an angelic eagle, it doesn't take you very long to find bad guys. So I did, and we had to neutralize the situation and probably averted a massive world cataclysmic event. A lot of people would have got blamed for that.
The wrong person might have been imprisoned like normally happens.
Yeah.
There would have been a fall guy. We all know that. One thing I want to insert before we go back over to Mel and Eric is just so you're watching this show know that although we are in this, doing it, sometimes even I, who's in it, doing it, going, no, can't be. Did we just stop that? Did we just save this person's life? I mean, I find myself having these conversations, and this is how tuned in we are to the light source. The next day, it's like they were reading my thoughts. And I remember Mel and I had a conversation last week, Saturday, and then immediately after, the message she brought through was clarification on what we were discussing. Well, same thing. I went to bed thinking, there's no way we just saved that person's life. Eric just did it so simply. He and Mel can't be. And then the next day, Mel's message that she brought through again was confirmation. So we sent it to Eric, like, woohoo, Eric, taking out the champagne. You know?
We wish to mention today, and that is the aversion of what you would consider to be an attempt at someone's life. We speak of someone who is in a powerful position. We speak of someone who is in the process of making changes. We speak of someone who, in our opinion, has genuine concern for the human collective and those who are under the manipulation of other forces. We do not wish to speak more on the matter or reveal who this person is. However, rest assured that there are many sources who are tirelessly working to assist humanity by doing various things, including helping to prevent certain events from happening, which would derail the human collective from progressing on this current trajectory. We have mentioned this before, and we will say it again. There are those who are working behind the scenes, unnamed persons, human and non-human, who are working to better the human collective by assisting in various matters in the metaphysical realm, in the spiritual realm. Those of you who do not believe this exists or do not believe that change happens in the spiritual first must re-examine their beliefs. For everything begins in the spiritual before it ever manifests itself in the physical. We are the Council of Nine. Different. Did they just tell us that an attempt on someone's life was averted? That's what it sounds like. I mean, that's what they said. It's not what it sounds like, it's what they said. Who do you think? I mean, you know, this could be anywhere in the world, right? I'm not going to make assumptions here, but let me hear your thoughts. And of course, stay tuned for more. Bye.
You know, because there is a level of excitement and exhilaration that I experience every time we get the confirmation for something that huge like this, that Erik, Mel, and I do, although I just sit there going, oh, they're telling me somebody's knocking. That's all I bring to it. So anyway, Erik, you want to add something else?
Yeah, so I mean that's kind of how it works. Like we have to sit around and wait on Jennylyn to get tortured in order for Mel to get a message, in order for me to go stop things. It's like a circle. It's kind of how it works.
Okay, let me tell you, I would rather do one of their jobs because mine is wearing thin. But I can do it. I will not cave in to bullies. Okay, Mel, did you want to add something or tell us your next experience that you want to share?
Yeah, I think we've pretty much said everything there needs to be said to this particular incident.
Correct.
There was a different night. I think it was the night of the full moon or the day before the full moon. I don't even know anymore because it seems as though every night just, you know, goes into the next and I can't tell anymore. Anyhow, it was one of those nights where I was engaging with your your property. What I mean engaging is I went in and I checked it for you to make sure. I think that was Tuesday, actually, if I remember correctly. Just to be sure, because we knew that the next day was going to be the full moon. And I like to go into your property to sort of, check things when I get a chance. So it's one of those occasions where I did that. And as I'm going, and I was busy, boy, was I a busy bee. I was doing things, and with my this newfound thing that I have, that is related to the seal, it allows me just to do different things and a lot more quickly. So I was just doing a whole bunch of stuff in the yard and then inside the house and then back out in the yard. And then I noticed all of a sudden this man standing outside of your property, right on the sidewalk. And he was watching me, and it wasn't just random. Okay, now we're in the ethereal, so this person sees me. This person is there because I'm there, and I don't know this man. I don't know this guy, and I think to myself, who is that? And he had an air of he had lighter hair, so light brown. He had a European feel. Okay, I knew right away that he was not from the United States. He had a European feel. I just couldn't place him where, not yet. So I approached him, and I was inside your property, which already had all of those nice little energetic barriers up. And I spoke to him through the barrier, and I said, "Who are you?" And and I was getting ready to kind of make sure that he couldn't do anything. And he said, "Whoa, I'm only here to observe." And I'm like, "Really?" Because people don't just observe. We know that doesn't work, right? There's always a reason for why you're observing. And then all of a sudden he starts to talk, and he says to me, what would you do if you could have anything you ever wanted? What do you know what that would feel like? Or I don't know. I'm paraphrasing here. I don't remember the exact words that he said. And I stood there and I thought to myself, are you trying to, is this guy trying to make me an offer to come work for them? Right. and I and sure enough, he did. And I said, you know, I can't be manipulated. Or and I turned away and I walked away and I left him there. And I don't even know what happened to him, but I know he couldn't penetrate. But I thought to myself, well, this was the first, okay, the first actually at your property. Now, this is not the first time that someone has propositioned me to come work for the other side. This is the second time. I had just not as direct. The first time this happened was from the organization of the Eye many months ago. Remember that, Jennylyn? When through the ethers, they were offering me something. And of course, I said, no, thanks, you know, not interested. And this guy literally showed up at your house to offer me or to gauge whether or not I would be receptive. He wasn't making an offer. I don't think he was authorized to make an offer because he was a warlock. I figured out he wasn't a warlock. I got confirmation, and he was from Switzerland. So, you know, we've had, you know, our little ongoings in Switzerland before, but that's where the European came in. No wonder he had this European air. So I don't know what happened to him, but I thought that was a really, really interesting story. So you see, when the other side can't, you know, seem to get a handle on what it is that we're doing, they want to offer, you know, money or something to get us to change sides. So I just want to point it out there. You know, I've never said this before on here, but I've never been approached like this, right? And well, my answer to this man was very clear. So in those of you who are watching, be very clear. I cannot be manipulated. I cannot be bought, and neither can Erik. So
in other words, if you don't speak English, what Mel is saying very clearly, we are not all for sale. You cannot buy all of us by offering us money and power. For some of us, integrity is more valuable than money and the power. And us three are three of those people who cannot be bought. So if you're planning to proposition Erik and offer him a couple billion, don't waste your breath.
Well, I mean, we're talking Elon Musk money. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Because in the reality of things, money is nothing here. Like I can't take it to the next dimension with me. It stays here, so it's not worth anything beyond here. And the value of your existence is not fully in this living world that we're in right now.
For those of you still asleep, if you haven't gotten connected the dots yet, the place that we are going, those with their money and their power, who are pounding at my vessel every day, who will never break me, cannot go where I am going, and where the innocent souls who have chosen to stay in the light are going. Their money and their power cannot get them there. So I enjoy my life the way it is because I know my final destination and I will enjoy being there. So Mel, I don't know if you want to talk about all of the cameras and wires that you found on my property. They're trying to make me into a bionic woman. Mel also found a spaceship now, a spaceship. And I don't know if I could say the other two places, but I'll leave that up to her and Erik.
yeah, so you know, they've become very much what's the word I'm looking for?
Aggressive.
Yes, that too, but they have used different methods. So, and you can tell when someone else is doing the work because the methods or the way these things are placed in your property is different. Okay, it's kind of like you can tell that it's someone else's work. All right, and what I mean by that is what we find now all the time are grids, you know, energetic grids that literally there's an entire grid, projected into the side of your home, into the side of the house, okay, or in the floor. I found it, or outside there's something in one of the trees, or there's something in the basement, okay, in the wall. Again, it's kind of like it lights up. I can see it when I really go looking for it. So it's kind of like, I check these things out, I find them, and then I dismantle them. And these energetic grids are usually tied to an energy source of a power source of some sort. So when I see these grids, what I do, my first thing I do is I don't even bother with these grids. I go follow the source, because as long as these grids are still going or operational, I can trace the source. And I have found the source to different states. Okay, I've gone to different operation centers. I can't say some of that stuff on here because it's not. It would, can't do it. But let's put it this way: it's out of state, and it's run by people who are not readily known, or very secretive. Okay, people know they exist, but they're very secretive. So and that has to do, and your audience might think of why would that be? Well, because they're all connected to the reptilians. It all goes back to the reptilians, because every time we go to these places and we trace the source, who is manning the thing? A reptilian. It may be a reptilian in reptilian form, or it may be a reptilian in human form, half reptilians. We've had those before, and Erik can speak on that many times. He's the reptilian expert on here because he always goes after them. I mean, I have been doing that too. So I want to say, the other day, I went a little dark feminine on on them, and I will speak on that in a little bit. I don't want to get sidetracked here, but it's basically fascinating, okay, how they are literally putting in these power grids, or these energy grids, in order to bring things in order to be able to manipulate, and in order to operate energetically all sorts of equipment. And when I say equipment, this is what you just mentioned. I found in your home a camera, an ethereal camera in the corner, okay, watching. And we always wonder, how can they see what we're doing? Well, that was one way. And if those of your, followers who go back all the way to Dutchman used to do this kind of stuff, right? He used to sort of put little gadgets, in the space, and just allow and use them to his advantage. Okay, so in other words, you can basically set the intention, or of using something that exists in the physical, and install it somewhere, and then use it psychically to spy on someone else, or to do something that you that you wanted to do. So I've been finding literally cameras and other things in your home. So this is getting really interesting. And I'm just, and one, actually, before I finish with this this thing, is that I found something that was literally beaming something onto your vessel and causing the pain. It was also mounted in your home, and it was directly beaming something. So it was an electrical, and it was like a device that was doing it, that was somehow, put on the wall, up to, by the ceiling, and it was beaming something. And I don't know what it was beaming, but it was hitting your vessel. And I remember that when I found it and I dismantled it, I disabled it, the discomfort you experienced ceased. Okay, so it literally, this is what they do. They're becoming more and more inventive. Like they know things. And then we're dealing now with some reptilians who are actually able to do something by intention. Okay, so they don't have to physically go there. They do it by intention. And I have yet to figure out why this has changed that way, because they should have been able to do this all along. But my take is that maybe we're now dealing with reptilians who are of upper hierarchy, okay, who have stronger abilities in the physical and who can do that. So very, very interesting. And yes, let's get to the spaceship and then I'll hand it over to Erik. One of the things that I found that was connected to your discomfort and your pain, when I was dismantling it, again, it's one of those occasions where I had to go and look for the source, and I was taken straight to a spaceship that was in orbit, that was up there and filled with reptilian. And I saw this really big reptilian, and he had a tail. You know, it's not just typical reptilian. He had a big tail, a muscular tail, and he was bigger than what I normally. I was made to believe that he was more powerful and more about higher hierarchy than the other ones that we usually come across. And Erik's going to speak on this a little bit more because he dealt with that person. A person. It's not a person, but you know what I mean. I did too, briefly. Just to dismantle something. He was shown to me as holding like some sort of device. And in order for me to be able to help you, Jennylyn, I had to get to this device. It's like a controller. That's how it was shown to me. And so I took out the controller and I sort of, by surprise. I didn't do more than that because I knew this wasn't my job. This was Erik's job. Okay. So like I know, like some things are just Erik's to do and other things are mine. I just do what's necessary. And except for the other day when I decided to go a little dark feminine, but that's for another. So Erik, to you.
Right before Erik, hold 1 second, Erik. I was really attacked terribly at work on Friday. So I reached out to Mel because I know Erik is busier during the day. And Mel found that they had wired up my workplace. Mel found the same type of arrangement at the place where I work. Can you believe it? I just wanted to insert that, Mel.
Yes, no, that's true. They actually, I found a power source right outside, next to the building in the ground. It was literally right by that was the power source. Again, I go for the power source. When I deal with these energy or electrical things, I look for the power source first so that I can find it. If I disable or dismantle this power grid, then I don't have anything to trace. So I trace it first, and then I disconnect the power source, and that's when I go do the rest. So yeah. So back to you, Jennylyn or Erik, if you want to.
Erik, we're gonna hand it over to Erik now.
Yeah.
I just wanted to let everyone know that they're even messing with my work. This is harassment, but you can't break my spirit.
Okay, so this week's forecast, we're going to have ice in the northern states. Oh, wrong show. We're on the wrong show. No, but so Mel gets a hold of me and she says, "Hey, there's a spaceship up in space. Go check that out." And I was like, "Okay." So I went up there and I remember I found it, and then I looked down because I wanted to see where, like right around about where it was hovering. And it was just off of the western coast of Africa, like right by like the Ivory Coast in Gambia, like right around that like horn there. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I don't know if that's relevant to anything, but I just wanted to see where it was, like kind of where it was hovering over. But then I saw the ship, so I went in and I started off like kind of like in like a middle like floor. I don't know how to best it was like floors. It's not like a big open ship. Like this thing was massive. And so I'm walking around and I'm like I'm in incognito. Like they can't tell who I am or what I am. So I'm walking around. Finally I get to like the officer's deck. And so I walk in there and everybody's staring at this big giant screen. And I could see this big, huge lizard up there. I would describe him as
can I interrupt you? Was I on the screen?
I don't know. I didn't look at the screen. I was just looking at aliens. But I would probably describe the biggest one that I saw. He was like an admiral. If I had to compare him, he was like an admiral in the Navy. He was in charge of the whole ship. So they all had their backs to me. so I saw like a seat. So I went and I sat down in the seat, like at this little control panel thing. And so the reptilian said something. And then I said, would you like me to set the coordinates to Tatooine, Lord Vader? And then he looked at me like confused. And then so I stood up and I was in my angelic form, and then he understood what was going on. And so I was making fun of him, and then he didn't like it. And so I walked over. I said, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" And they basically were letting me know that they're not doing anything. So it looks like you guys are doing something. Like, you don't just come out and park a big, giant, massive ship over the top of my planet for no reason. And he didn't want to divulge at all what they were doing. So I advised him that the ship, I'm going to count to 10, and I want the ship to disappear. Otherwise, the ship's going to explode. And so he took me pretty seriously at that point, and he was pretty willing to just go away. And so I got out of there, and then he took the ship and he left. So then I came back, and then I told everybody, I'm like, hey, the ship's been handled. So I don't. It wasn't going to be a good idea to eliminate every being on that ship. So as much as I wanted to, it would not have worked in the other dimensional worlds. It would have been bad. I would have been in the wrong.
Yeah, I agree. Sometimes the lines, they blur, right? There's something,
Right.
and it's kind of like we know exactly what to do. Our human self would maybe react a little differently, right? But when the angelic forms and the higher selves of ours make different decisions, right, Eric? It's kind of like yeah. And I just want to briefly add to this is that there are many spaceships out there, from the Galactic Federation and other beings. But it's interesting that you were honing in exactly on the ship that was, connected, and that happened to be, reptilian. So,
Right.
so it's kind of really this is how it works. Like you say earlier, you always kind of know where I am and what where you need to go. That's how it works, right, Eric? It's
Right.
we just know where to go and usually what to do when we get there at some point, we get insight on what to do when we get there. So yeah.
That is
So, sorry, Eric, did you have something you want to add?
no. I was just pumping up Mel's very in-depth analysis of that. Yes.
Okay. So, one of the things I wanted to do this week before we wrap is interview both of you, separately, of course, on exactly what this means, because I am part of this group and I don't understand exactly how the whole thing happens. So I'd like to interview you, Eric, and you only share what you're allowed to share. And then I'll do the same with Mel. And I'm coming from the perspective of someone who's watching this show, who is human, and who can only comprehend what we are sharing from a human perspective. Because remember, cognitive dissonance is something we've all suffered from. And nowhere in our lives has anyone ever told us that there's extraterrestrial life amongst us, that we are living a spiritual life in parallel with our human physical life. Most people are completely unaware, although they do experience the spiritual aspects, like when they're hearing a voice telling them, don't do this or do this, or go here, or don't talk to this person. They don't know what it is. They call it the voice. I was one of those people. So, when you get into your character or your angelic form, when you are going to work and to battle in the spiritual realm, for someone watching who's having difficulty connecting the dots, because you're riding dinosaurs and you're jumping on spaceships, going to the moon, going to Mars, going under the ocean. It just sounds so mumbo jumbo. And I know you're going because I'm part of this. But how would you explain it to someone who has difficulty comprehending how this works without telling what you're not supposed to tell?
Well, what I would say is go watch the original Superman movies, and that pretty much sums it up. He can do anything, and that's kind of how it is in the angelic world. We have in the angelic world, we have an immense amount of freedom and power, so it's easy to conjure up just about anything you need. And some things I don't know that I can do until I go try to do it. So, and there's some things that happen to where you're given a spiritual block. Like Mel says, there's things that they say, hey, this isn't for you. There's things that happen to me like that too, where I just get this spiritual block and I can't do it. And then I have to figure out, okay, well, is this a Mel thing, which happens sometimes where I'm like, they're not letting me in, Mel. You're gonna have to try it. And it happens like that. Sometimes, the divine picks and chooses who they need to do certain things. And it's very confusing. It's complicated. Like I couldn't jump right into these things. I've been practicing, opening up, into the spirit world for a long, long time. And I finally got to the point where I could do it, but it took me 20 to 30 minutes to get in. And so now, since I met Mel and Jennylyn, now it's like I can go right in. And I had been practicing for 15 years and was getting nowhere. I was taking very, very small baby steps. So it's not something that I just woke up one day and I'm like, oh, hey, I can see things. It doesn't work like that. Like I put in a lot of practice to open up, my third eye, so I can have a visual of things. It took a lot of practice, and I believe that everybody has this potential. I think that if you sit down and you focus long enough, you're going to be able to get into a different vibration, into a different realm of existence. It's great when you get there, but at the same time, if you, like, for me, I was chosen to do a certain mission from the angelic realm. So that's my job here. I don't get to sightsee in all these things. I have a job to do. I'm working on something right now that I've been told to do that I can't divulge yet. And so I'm constantly working on that as well. I don't really have like hey, let's go on an angelic vacation to, the 11th dimension. I can't do that because I have a job to do all the time. There's so much stuff here that needs to be done, because this is where, my earthly body is at. So this is where I have to put my work in the, from the divine. This is where they want me to be right now.
Thank you, Erik. That's a great explanation. And Mel, you. Same question.
Yeah, so I'm going to explain it a little bit from a perspective that I know, spiritual perspective, right? Is if you, so many people understand what astral traveling is, okay? They do it, some people can do it, on demand, and others do it when they are asleep. As a matter of fact, many people, and I say this because spirit teams that in personal readings say it all the time, people leave their bodies at night and they go places, right? They do things. And when I mean do things, those who are connected to otherworldly beings, so star seeds, if you so will, they actually go do things. Their souls go around and they do things. They connect with other souls and assist them or do something. And they're not even aware of it. They're doing it while they're sleeping. And others, like for instance, and I'm going to, insert this here, others who are connected, for instance, to the Lyrans. The Lyrans are the cat people. Those people are fighting battles. I kid you not. And those people who I come across, they have battle wounds. They wake up with bruises and marks on their bodies, and they confirm that they have them oftentimes, and or stiffness in certain parts of their bodies they don't even know, and they fight. That's their thing. Okay, so everyone can do this. You're just not aware of it. And Erik and I, we are aware of it. And just like Erik says, for me, this wasn't like I woke up one day and I did this. For me, this is part of a spiritual journey that has been going on for many years, right? And I didn't start this way. Okay, I started off with energy work. I had to a lot of what I do now and what ties into what I do is energy work, and it took me years and years and years to refine and to learn and to be exposed and to connect in order to do some of the things I do now. Okay, so again, this is really something that comes with spiritual awakening and with enlightenment to a certain extent, is you're opening yourself up to your abilities. And Erik is perfectly correct when he says that everyone has abilities on some level and everyone's different. Okay, it's just so happens that Erik and I are of the angelic realm, right? We're both of the seraphim angels, and we tend to have, we were connected because of what it is, the missions that are connecting us and what we're doing, with you and what the world needs. But that's not to say there are others who do other things. All right, and I want people to really have an open mind, right? This is merely your soul. You're leaving your body and going someplace and doing something, and you're being in control, fully aware of what your soul and your higher self, meaning your higher self, you're connecting with your higher self, you're merging with your higher self, and your higher self is doing something. That's what that is. This is not some crazy stuff. This is actually, people can read up on this. This is not so crazy. It's just that for us, of course, because we have these stories and all the things that happen to us, it seems crazy. But technically, we've been doing things, and I'm sure Erik does it too. There were times where he didn't do anything. You just hang out. Maybe you go to an island and lay around when you can, your higher self. You could technically do that if you really wanted to, but yeah, everyone can do this. So it's not crazy. It literally is just your soul having connected with your higher self, and you now allowing your soul to travel, to astral travel and do things. And in personal readings, I get some highly spiritual people who do this as well. Okay, I've actually was connected with one gentleman who does this regularly. He's fighting or trying to the reptilians and the grays all the time. I thought that was very interesting, and he's doing it on his own. He's doing his own thing. He just happened to fall into this a few years ago. And then there's others who are just going places. They're merging with different dimensions and expanding their soul's growth. Okay, this can be done in many different ways. Okay, so that's all I'm going to say to this. This isn't just fighting things. This is all sorts of things. They're light workers who allow themselves to do something. And if you set the intention and you are connected enough with your higher self, you can do the same. And of course, first and foremost, the biggest hurdle that most people need to overcome when they do that is believing that it's possible. If you don't believe it's possible, then there's no way that you're going to be able to do this. So a sense of belief, you have to believe that it exists and that it's possible in order for you to do it. So.
Thank you. Thank you, Mel. And I brought this up because when I was getting dressed for this show today, someone told me that I should do this. And what triggered it is I was watching a video where the person was saying if you're selected for a huge divine mission, the enemy can't hurt you because you are divinely protected. And I thought, really? Well, I was born for one of the highest missions on the planet with Melanie Erik because I know no one else is doing what the three of us do. They do some of it, but not on the level that we do it. So why was Dutchman and Sandra Tong and their cronies allowed to do the things they did to me? That was the question I asked my guides, and they told me because I was off in the world doing my own thing and I was not staying focused on my divine mission. So they allowed these people to do these things to me to wake me up to the spiritual world. And now I've arrived here and I'm doing that which I was born to do. But Mel spoke about astral travel, and you've heard me speak of Rita. She was my Mel, but she's crossed over, and infrequently she visits. And she told me one day, Jennylyn, you're taking too many astral flights. And I'm like, what the heck is an astral flight? And she said, you need to get a cross or a prayer or something and put it in your car. And when you get in your car, you need to hold it and ground yourself before you start driving. And one day, shortly after she told me this, in retrospect, I'm wondering if Spirit allowed this to give me a clear demonstration of astral travel. Because in the middle of the day, driving to work, my mind went somewhere and I had gone past 5 or 6 exits in the wrong direction. And all of a sudden, I'm like, oh my God, where am I? I've missed my exit and where am I going? And I went to this destination every day for years because it was my job. So now I was 5 exits in the wrong direction, stuck in traffic, trying to get back to my exit to where I needed to get off to go to my job. So I was 40 minutes late for work. And I'm like, okay, got it. I just took an astral flight in the middle of the traffic. So that was a good definition. I spaced out and just went on. I don't know where my consciousness was, but it was definitely not on my destination in that moment. And so, on this note, I think we've covered all that we can cover today, unless there's something Erik or Mel neglected to mention that they want to share today.
I'll just say one thing real quick. So, everybody just remember to be prepared. So I'm going to tell you this without telling you this. Realities will happen very soon. There will be a reality. And so we need to be prepared. So when you start feeling it get windy around you, don't pee in the wind.
Don't piss in the wind? What the heck is that? All right. Erik is leaving you with a parable. So there's one to ponder. And you, Mel.
I think he means that when you do that, it's going to come right back at you. So, if the wind's blowing, you don't do it because it's going to come at you. I think that's what he means. But it's probably more from a male perspective. Anyhow.
You got it right, Mel.
Yes. Okay. So yeah, I mean, I think we covered a lot today with regard to what's happened, and there really is something going on in your life every day. I mean, we really have something to do every single day, and I can't say it again enough to those who are watching, especially those from the other side, okay, which I call the other
And
side.
those up in the clouds and those that work for
Yeah.
places that have 3-letter and 4-letter names, we know each of you. We know every one of you that is doing things to me. Whether you call yourself GOV or whomever, we know you cannot hide. Everything you do, Melanie Erik will find it and you will pay. And every time And I'm just interjecting with Mel because I meant to say this and I forgot. Mel, hold your thought. Everything you do, Mel and Erik can undo. And I know you're watching me. You have cameras all over my house, all over my property, watching me. But I will tell you this now because you need to hear it. Every camera you put, you're not going to find anything. We will find your cameras and we will destroy your operation.
Yeah, well, I'm going to just pick up right where you left off. Okay, I want to reiterate to them that everything they do leads to someplace else. Okay, so you may think that you are engaging in one operation, but that one operation leads us to something and then something else for us to dismantle. So just like I said to Dutchman, okay, you're shooting yourself in the foot. Every time you do something, you are unbeknownst to you, now doing something that is going to allow us to interfere if we feel the need to, or if we're guided to. Okay, and let's face it, Erik and I, like Erik and I said, we're both being guided. Okay, we have different assignment, different missions that we do in this existence. Aside from you, even when it comes to you, Jennylyn, we do different things. Okay, but nonetheless, we do have missions, and I want to briefly pick up again on what I said earlier. Many will look at me and say, okay, or they underestimate me, some of those people, okay? And the other day when I said that I went dark feminine, what I meant by this is dark feminine is a term for that the female goes on in, divvying out justice. And I had it enough with these people, okay? And I know Erik was busy, so I went and I did some energetic damage. And I know I did some energetic damage because the place that I went after still isn't operational today, okay? So it's one of those things is don't mess with either of us. All right. It's kind of like I really think sometimes they look at me as, okay, she can trace things, but I'm the one who also does things. Okay. And I have more patience and I go after them. I take heads too. I'm not like, I have to say, when it comes to battle, if Erik's available, he's the man, he and I'm being told I always know when when he needs to do something. I'm being told when he needs to do something. But by golly, I, have just as much power if I need to. I just don't use it. I don't need to use it. And I don't want to use it, but don't underestimate either of us. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. And the more you do, the more you were going to find and dismantle. So,
And on that note, I'd like to add, we don't care your level. You could be royalty, you could be government, you could be whomever. You're a human. And no human is better than another one because they have money or power. They put themselves in a box. At the end of the day, we have to use the bathroom, shower, shave, and eat, all of us, regardless. And therefore, you must know that Erik and Mel are two people who have been assigned to take down all of you who are hurting innocent people. And I and them will do it unreservedly. We will do it because it's time to stop enslaving and doing the other heinous things that are being done to innocent people around the world. And so, Erik, Mel, and I are not blowing hot air. Just go look at the damage that's been done. Just go and look at what we've already taken down. And we are not blowing hot air, and we are not egotistical, and we're not trying to show off. But if you come at us and you're hurting humans, we are going to stop you, especially when you come at us. Erik, your turn. Your closing message.
I already said my closing message.
Okay, don't pee in the wind.
Don't pee in the wind.
And Mel, you didn't have anything else you wanted to say?
No,
Okay.
yes, I've said everything I needed to say. Absolutely.
Okay, so thank you guys, and we will be back next week. And like we say every week, God knows what we're coming with, but you can be sure that we'll be back next week. And thanks for watching us. Hopefully, the things we are telling you have been clarified a little bit today when Mel and Erik have given you an explanation of what it means when they're sharing the stories of what we have done. So thanks again, guys. And I'm really grateful that you're trusting us and still watching. Share it with your friends and like and subscribe, because when you do that, more people get to see the videos. See you next week, and thanks again.